Hi, in this video, we are going to be looking at the key components of a project proposal. Much of the work involved in successfully implementing a project actually takes place prior to starting the project itself. A project proposal is simply a well thought out plan or strategy which provides the roadmap for effective execution of a project. A project proposal serves two main purposes. The first is it helps you as a writer to focus your project aims and to clarify what is the importance of the project you're about to embark on. It also helps you to evaluate what methods are the most appropriate to use for your project or for your study. It also enables you to identify all the things that you need to be able to execute the project and to evaluate if the work can be completed in the expected time period. The second purpose of a proposal is that it serves as a basis for convincing either funding bodies to give you money to execute your project, or if your project involves some ethical aspects, this will be the document the ethical committee would review before they give you the go ahead to conduct the study. Or it can also be a document submitted to an academic board for the award of a degree. So it could be a bachelor thesis, a master thesis, or a PhD. So these are the two main purposes that a proposal serves. Before we dive into the main components of a proposal, it's important to note that the proposal itself is not the most important thing here, but the process of planning and preparing the proposal is the most important thing because it gives you clarity on what things that you need to assemble prior to starting the project and if you have enough time or not. And so while preparing your proposal, you should know that it is an iterative process. And so as you go along, you revisit the proposal several times and make modifications as necessary. And also it can be throughout the duration of the project. So the first component of a project proposal is the title. And the title should be concise and catchy. So let's say an example here, impact of vaccination on antibody production in males and females in the whole municipality. So your project title should have three main characteristics. The first is it should be self-explanatory so that anyone can understand what is it that you want to do, even people who are not directly in your field. The second is that it should summarize the work to be done. So if somebody reads the title of your project, they immediately have a rough idea of what the study is going to be about. And the title should also hint on what are the variables or the issues that will be addressed in the study. So in this case, we want to evaluate the impact of vaccination on antibody production. And so this is the independent variable is the vaccination and the dependent variable is the antibody production. So a project title should be concise and catchy and self-explanatory. The second component of a project proposal is the introduction. And the introduction has three main parts. The first is the background to the study. So this is where you give a clear statement of why the study is important and what are the research questions you want to investigate. The second part of the introduction is the current state of the art or a review of the relevant literature. In this section, you want to see what is the current state of knowledge or what have others done about the problem. The final part of the introduction is the statement of the problem or the gap which you've identified. So you want to ask yourself, why is this problem that you've identified, why is it not solved yet? And how do you plan to contribute? How is your project going to contribute to solving this problem? So these are the three main components that make up the introduction. We'll just look a bit into each of these three sections and see how you can dive into that. So the first part is the context or the background. And here you want to either position your study within the current state of knowledge. So this is claiming centrality. So if you want to position your study in the current trends. So there has been growing interest in differences in efficiency of vaccination between men and women. So if this is the trend that all other people are investigating at the moment, you want to position your study within this current state of knowledge. Or another option is to make generalizations, and this has to do with if there are already concepts that are accepted or consensus in the field, you want to use this as a basis for your study. So it's generally accepted that vaccinations are more effective in women than in men. So then this is the basis for your study. You want to investigate why this is the case. So in some proposals, it's required to also indicate the research question and also the hypothesis. So based on your background or context to the study, you can formulate a research question. So people are usually producing antibodies in response to vaccination. So if the background says vaccination in women is more effective than in men, then is it because the levels of antibody production is different between men and women? So this can be your research question. And the hypothesis is just an educated guess about the answer to your research question. So men and women differ significantly in antibody production levels in response to vaccination. And the second part of the introduction is the current state of the art. So here you are just doing a brief literature search about what are the research works that have been done in relation to the problem you have identified. And you are also looking out for what are the major omissions, what are the gaps, or what are the criticisms that you can identify in the previous work that has been done. Then we go to the third part, which is the problem statement. And there are 4 ways you can approach this. And so from the left towards the right, so from here towards the right, we have the strongest case and then the weakest case. So first you can establish a counterclaim. So you can indicate that something is wrong about what has been done already, and this is the strongest. So you have to be really sure that what you are saying is correct and you've done your background study before you use this counterclaim approach, because you are basically attacking somebody's work. Another option is to indicate a gap in the research. So there is something has been done, but it's not sufficient, and so you want to do this study. Or you can raise a question. This has been done, however, you think some things are not clear or something needs to be clarified. Of course, the weakest one is to just add something to the existing knowledge. So you just want to extend the existing knowledge. And this problem statement would lead you into the next step, which is the goal. So you have identified this problem and or a gap in the knowledge, and this is the basis for the goals that you will set for your project in order to achieve them. So the third component is the project goal and objectives. Usually there is a main goal of the entire project, and which is divided into smaller objectives, which will be the basis for the results of your project. So first, you can say the first objective is to recruit this number of people. The second will be to evaluate the antibody levels before and after vaccination. And the third will be to evaluate the gender aspects by using statistical analysis. And yeah, this is a concept that is used to make your goals clearer and also easily achievable, which is called the SMART goals concept. And so you want to make sure that your goals are specific, they are measurable, so you have a matrix that you can use to determine if the goal is met or not, and it's feasible in terms of resources, and the project aligns with the larger long-term goals of what you want to attain. The fourth component of a proposal is the experimental methods, or the methodology. And here you want to describe all the methods that you will use in your project in sufficient detail. And you want to include the methodology, concepts, assumptions, instrumentation, anything that will be relevant for you to achieve the project goals. You need to write them in the project methodology section. Here you might want to ask yourself, what resources are needed to execute the project? Which methodology are you going to use? And why did you choose this methodology instead of another one? Do you have any ethical and safety issues to address? It's important here that if you are using some procedures from other people which have been published, you need to cite them properly in your experimental section. The fifth component of a proposal is the expected or anticipated results of the study. And here you just want to indicate what results would you expect if your hypothesis that you formulated is valid, and also how would the results be presented? Will it be in a form of a paper, or would it be disseminated in a conference? So this is just the expected results of the study. And the sixth component is the impact of your study or application of the results. And this is where you describe the importance of your project and how it is important to you as an individual. So what is the benefit for you in executing this project, or the importance of the project to the scientific community or to society, or any economic or technological benefits that will come out from the project. It's not every project that has all these four components in it. So some of the projects have only maybe scientific, so it will just contribute to new knowledge. And some of them can have all these four components. So it mainly depends on your project. So just see which of the benefits are in line with your project and indicate them in your proposal. The seventh component is the project timeline or work plan. And this is where you include when you will start and finish important aspects of the project, such as proposal writing and presentation, experiments, surveys, interviews, or all the major tasks that are involved in your project. You want to indicate the timeline, how many months would you need to perform each role, and you can present it in the form of a table, or you can also make it as a list. But it's important to have this overview of the project and to see which tasks are overlapping and how the time can be optimized. And of course, you can have a longer project. So this is also another type of work plan for a 2-year project. You can also have it for a 3-year project or even longer. And so depending on the duration of your project and the needs, you can make a work plan or a project timeline to cover that. The eighth component of a proposal is the references or the literature cited. And here you just want to list all publications, materials, or patents, whatever materials you consulted while preparing a proposal, you want to list them in the references section. It's important to use a bibliographic management software, which helps you to automatically create the reference list. And also, it's important because when you make a modification to the reference list, or if you delete one reference, the bibliographic management software is automatically reorganizing everything, and you don't have to do it manually. It can be a bit daunting when you have to do that. The ninth component is the proposed budget or estimated cost. And here you want to just list the cost of all materials, equipment, or consumables, anything that you will need for successfully implementing the project. You want to list them. It's quite normal to include a miscellaneous expenditure of about 20% in your project, and also indicate a short description and justification of the budget. So if you indicate, for example, cost for travel, you want to explain why you need this money. Maybe you need to go to another lab for some analysis, or you are going for a conference to disseminate your results. You just include a short description of what the budget is about. And so here we have a summary of the key components of a project proposal. And the most important thing is to have a coherent story in your proposal so everything flows naturally. So feel free to also modify the order of the items, and depending on a specific funding agency or requirement of an academic board, you might be expected to include additional components. And where you have these special requirements, maybe a funding committee needs additional sections in your proposal, feel free to adapt the basic structure and incorporate the additional requirements. So I'll just go through some of the additional things that may be requested for some proposals. One of them is the originality and innovative aspects. So most proposals at the higher level, so we're talking about from doctoral upwards, they require you to demonstrate that your project is contributing something new and original to the field. You also have to demonstrate that the project is significant and important and worthy of funding. You are also expected to describe the current state of the art and highlight the extent to which your research or your project will go beyond it. Another area that is frequently asked is the risk analysis and contingency planning. So here you want to look at the critical part of your project, so the whole project timeline, and try to evaluate what could go wrong, what could happen to resources, to time frame, to people. So for example, if somebody quits the job, what is the contingency plan to continue the project? If there is a breakdown of instruments, for example, how do you plan to go around it? So risk analysis is one important area that tells the reviewers of your proposal that you have given a deep thought to your work and you have planned alternative routes to make the project succeed no matter what challenges come. Another commonly asked component is the interdisciplinarity, gender and diversity issues. Many a times it's required to explain whether you are combining expertise and methods from different disciplines to achieve the project objectives, and this is the interdisciplinarity aspect. And nowadays it's very common that a lot of projects ask you to explain how you will address gender and other diversity issues in your project, and data management as well as open science practices. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, do share it with others, and thanks for watching.